The Paul Leslie Hour, helping people tell their stories. And now, your host, Paul Leslie.
Hey, it's me. What's doing? Well, folks, 500 is a nice round number. This is the 500th episode of the Paul Leslie Hour. Welcome to it. On this episode, we have a songsmith extraordinaire. Butch Hancock is with us. I think you are going to enjoy. Can you help the Paul Leslie Hour? It only takes a moment, and your help keeps it going. Just go to thepaulleslie.com. Up at the top, you're going to see where it says Support the Show. Click there. It only takes a moment and makes a world of difference. You can also help by just sharing this interview. Please share this interview on social media. That's a big help too. I want to thank Lance Cowan, as well as our special guest, Butch Hancock. And whether this is your first time tuning in or you're a regular listener, I'm very grateful to have you here. Enjoy the show, and thank you for listening. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is episode number 500 of the Paul Leslie Hour. Welcome, welcome all. I have a man joining us who has been called a master of words and one of the finest songwriters of our time. Butch Hancock is a vocalist, performer, recording artist. He's also a visual artist, a painter and photographer. Butch Hancock is a member of the renowned group the Flatlanders, along with Jimmie Gilmore and Joe Ely. Along with his numerous recordings, his songs have been interpreted by people like Emmylou Harris and the late Jerry Jeff Walker. Butch Hancock, it's been a pleasure to listen to your music through the years, and now, finally, to welcome you today. Thank you so much.
Well, it's a pleasure, Paul, to be alive and well out here in Terlingua, Texas, out in the middle of the desert. The Chihuahuan Desert, comes up from Mexico right here by the border and actually extends over a ways into Texas. So we've got the northern edge of the desert out here, and it's a beautiful day.
It's a beautiful day here, but I like to think that radio and podcasts, they're theaters of the mind.
Yeah.
So how would you describe this part of the country that you're in right now?
Well, let's see. There's a tornado coming over the hill just to the north of us, about 100 yards away. Should be here shortly, and other thunderstorms building up everywhere. And it's snowing. My God, it's snowing now that if that is not, no, it's not. Okay, what is that out there? I'm looking out my north window here, so anything can happen out there. But other than that, I'd describe it as it's an old ghost town because there aren't any new ones that I know of in the neighborhood. And I moved out here. My wife and I and my family moved out here back in 97, 98. And but I've made the mistake of telling everybody in Austin that we moved out here because there's ample parking. And I shouldn't have said that. Man. In fact, I'm thinking about see if I can get a concession franchise on parking meters out here now. I'm thinking about it. I'll let you know how that goes. But it's theoretically isolated. It's starting to grow fast, and but it's a wonderful community of folks, and that always got your back. We've got a lot of it's ecotourism, they call it, and I call it a tourist. But we all seem to manage to get along with it all. I don't know if that made any sense. Actually, we have a good little music community here. There's some really wonderful pickers and good songwriters and nice little music scene going on. They had to kind of go indoors and quarantine this year has been a little difficult on a lot of folks, but I think that's the way it is kind of all over right now.
Oh yeah. Well, on that note, have you found this year 2020? Has it been a year that you've written a lot? Has it been an inspiring year?
No, well, I mean it's inspiring in many, many ways, but I don't think I've written a song this year. It's been I haven't been trying to. It's been a whole different world. But I'm dang near learning how to play the guitar now, though. After 50 years of it, I finally, that's how you do that, man. I spend several hours a day with the guitar, and it's just fantastic. I'm learning things I wish I had known back then.
Would you say that there has been any blessing to this year for you?
Well, absolutely. Every day, they're uncountable. Just about anything you want to call a curse can also be a blessing, So it's a lot of time. We have a lot of time out here to watch the cactus grow, but you can substitute it by just in watching how your friends grow and how the human condition I'm more of in a state of osmosis right now than evolution, I think. But I guess that osmosis may be part of evolution. We'll see in a few months or years, huh?
Well, how did you learn to write songs? Was that something that just came natural to you?
I think everything's natural, so that answer might be yes, but in the conventional use of that idea, no, not really came naturally. It just I picked up a guitar and tried to learn some songs and chords, and then I figured, hey, I could be writing some songs, so I started writing songs. The story goes, and this is pretty accurate, actually, that I was working as a tractor driver for my dad out around Lubbock, Texas, and he'd have me out there on different earth-moving equipment, basically for, morning to dusk at times. And I always interview my audiences and ask them, how many tractor drivers do we have out there? And it's getting to be fewer and fewer hands go up. But I tell them that, well, if you are a tractor driver, you know that after the first couple of minutes every morning on the tractor, you've done 95% of the heavy mental work for the day. and there you are staring at an empty field and you've got a mind that's probably full of all kinds of stuff, but it got to be where I would write some songs out there on the tractor. And I discovered I took some harmonicas out there one time just to kind of keep me company on the tractor, a harmonica and a harmonica rack. And I found out that the key of G was just about even up with second gear at 2 throttle on this old tractor that I drove almost every day. And so I could, by shifting gears and speeding up and slowing down, I could play, most of the songs I already knew. And I started making up songs. So that's where I got my start, actually writing songs. I was sitting on the track.
Very interesting.
Well, it is. It's like, sometimes you get in a car and drive usually takes about an hour or two before it sets in that there's, you can actually, there's room in your mind to write a song while driving a car, because you still keep your eyes on the road and your hands on the wheel. And it requires a little bit of, doesn't require a huge amount of presence and attention, but what it does require that's small is absolutely essential. So to drive the car. And then that leaves you with a lot more brain space to work on songs and reason with your unconscious. At least that's how I feel today.
Other than the tractors and the writing of these songs, how do you think growing up in this part of Texas that you're from, how do you think that affected you?
I think there's something about the topography of a place that works on your unconscious, I think. And Lubbock area, where I grew up, was just flat as a pancake. Or as Terry Allen said, if you stand out in the field out there, if you stare hard enough, you can and look long enough, stare hard enough, you can actually see the back of your head. It's so flat. and we've got several other versions of that. Watching your dog run away for a week. It's so flat. It's one thing after another. But yeah, man, I don't know. What's the next question? We better not spend too long on that.
I was wondering about your parents. Were they supportive of this idea of their son being an artist?
Well, yeah, I think they didn't figure it out exactly. My dad figured it out, and I think my mom was worried about, not one of the times I dropped out of architecture school at Texas Tech. She kind of got worried, but my dad said, "Well, Mama, your son, you raised an artist here," and he kind of chuckled about it. He figured it out, and my dad had to put up with me writing songs while driving a tractor, and I'd see him kind of scratching his head halfway across the field, wondering why I was going in circles, and but he put up with it long enough for me to get some songs started. So it was a very, very interesting time. That was back during Vietnam days. Everybody was going crazy. I mean, everybody was going crazy, and anybody who thought they weren't was even crazier. So it was great times. And here we are these days, same, how far have we come? Yeah, that's why I question evolution and lean more towards osmosis.
It does seem like human beings are kind of wired to make mistakes in circles.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I like that phrase. Yeah, make mistakes in circles. Yes. Yeah. History repeats itself, and sometimes you didn't want to hear it the first time.
You even put it better. What would you say has always been the purpose of the art you create?
I would say just exploration. There may be sub-purposes, and sometimes a dominant purpose rears its ugly head, but, I write kind of exploring, and a lot of times I have no clue what's going to come from it. And so, yeah, if it's not an exploration, then it's kind of like, what is a purpose? To tell everybody, hey, I know all this, pay attention to me, or is it, to explore, maybe entice people to explore your poetry with you. Not, you'll get judgment for sure about it, but yeah, maybe here and there somebody said, hey, man, somewhere that's a little different twist of something. Let's see where that goes. And just help people open up a little more. Sometimes I know I'm kind of preachy with some of my songs, but I'm actually not trying to, force it down somebody's throat. It's just an offering. So, that begs the old question: where do songs come from? And I'd like to talk to somebody who has found that out. I have 50 years of doing it, and I have no clue where the songs come from, except we all live in the universe, so I guess it comes from the universe somewhere. There's things you can do to kind of egg it on, maybe, but where that original spark comes from is, I think, beyond control. It's you just make yourself available for it, and then try to stay out of the way. Maybe you can help it along with some. If you've done your homework with your instruments and a little bit of songwriting techniques, there are things that you can employ, but the danger is that you might employ them. The good thing about the techniques are that they're there in case you need them, in case you have. But if you use the technique to get you to the place, I think you may have stopped exploring. So, and you get, that's why you get so much stuff sounds so alike. Back in the day on the radio, we just got where we couldn't listen to it hardly because stuff was all sound like canned music. Didn't who wrote that? Dan Hicks. Didn't he write a song, Canned Music? I think he did.
He might have.
And he's a whole nother story. Yeah, is he still? Man, I don't know if he's still around.
I don't know.
Sure he is. He's got to be. Yeah. But
you mentioned the radio, and I always like to point people in the direction of things that I think are really cool. People can find this. I listened to this folk scene radio show with the late Howard Larman, and really great with you and Jimmie Dale Gilmore. Very, very interesting performing of songs and just talking about different things. There was something you said in that interview. You said that your biggest inspiration, it was visual things that inspired you. And that made me curious about, so how does that work? You're walking along or you're driving along and something strikes you. How does that happen?
Yeah, well, I think it goes back to my first days driving the tractor. My first album was full of, what was it called? West Texas Waltzes and Dust-Blown Tractor Tunes. That's sort of a little subtitle to it almost. I was sitting up on the tractor and I started writing songs about what I saw. And there ain't that much, you'd think there's not that much to see out there, but there's a yellow school bus down an old country road. I was looked up and I saw that, half a mile away, but I saw it. And sand dunes drifting where the west winds have blowed. Cows in the meadow and crows in the corn, and here I still am in the land where I was born. So that's just look around you. It's the songs are everywhere, without exception. It's if whether you're crazy enough or brave enough or dumb enough or smart enough to write down what you see. And if you keep your ears open, don't just come in through the eyes, you keep your ears open, you'll hear 30 or 40 songs a day, or at least the hook lines. And it's pretty bizarre. I'll tell you about a song I wrote. I haven't recorded it yet. But it was actually about 3 years ago in February, and I got up one morning here, and just before the sun came up, went outside to take a piss, and my mind was kind of groggy, waking up. It was a beautiful sunrise. I could tell it was going to happen, but as I stood there, this phrase came to my mind. It was, "Let your bare feet touch the earth today." And I went, wow, man, that's great advice. And I went back in and actually wrote that down, and I think I posted that on Facebook just as a little note, and then I got to thinking, well, maybe I could write a song out of that or something. I started trying to mess with it a little, and nothing seemed to write. And I kind of put it on the back burner, and next morning, same thing, except I showed up outside after the sun had come up. And the phrase that hit me right in the face literally was, "Let your bare face feel the sunshine." Wow. It's another beautiful piece of advice for a day, And so the upshot of it was that I started doing this every day, is letting something in the day itself write the next line. And I didn't know if I was writing a song or a little paragraph or what, but after 4 or 5 lines, I started seeing a little pattern to it, and I even rhymed it. But each line would slightly affect the next line, but not in the way in which I would usually write songs. It would just kind of be there. so this is like I was maybe trying to make sentences or, that kind of a relationship, not specific meaning necessarily, but just take from the tone of the previous line or as I got through the month of February, it was adding up to little 4-line stanzas, and I finally realized, well, it must be at least a poem, might be a song, but it was like 3 or 4 weeks into it before I started even thinking about a melody. And it turned out to be a beautiful little thing. But the main thing about it, Paul, was I'd never written a song in such a manner. I said, okay, just 1 line a day. And I'm not going to be the guy who writes it. The day has got to tell me what it is. and so every day it changed my whole outlook on the day. I said, okay, I worked on other songs, during that time. And I'd work on them in my usual laborious fashion, trying things out and seeing, doing that exploring thing. But this was a real listening month and opening my mind and being there for whatever was going to be the magic moment. And it always happened. Every day there was this line that came up. And it was the most effortless song I've ever written. And I've had some that just blurt out, like I can't help it. But this was just a beautiful thing because it was a real different kind of consciousness. Instead of worrying about how to get a chorus or a verse finished up, I was just waiting. and listening and open heart, open mind, and what could it possibly be? And a lot of times there'd be something like, oh, here it is, and that's not it. But it always showed up, and I thought about, man, maybe I should write all my songs like it, but not necessarily. It's there's so many methods of approaching songwriting. It's ridiculous. But so that was, and almost every line had something to do with nature or the nature of the universe or something. Everything from seeds in the field and the hawk on the wing, and more bare feet, more sunshine or clouds and sky. Everything that a desert has out here just about showed up in the song. So there's, instead of getting into a frenzy about writing a song and, man, I got to get this done, it's so relaxing to say, hey, man, this is, I'm not writing a song anyway. Life is writing it. Or maybe the sun shines. Maybe I'll write a song, that the sun, only listen to the sun or talk to the sun and get a song out of that. Or maybe just pick an object or a person, so you can do the same. This is kind of what we do with every little thing we encounter, is we kind of size it up for, what good is that for me, It's kind of an egocentric way to do it, but if you get out of the egocentricity and just listen to that object, listen to that grasshopper, listen to that, barn blowing away in the wind, listen to that car wreck over on the highway, but I didn't hear nobody pray. Remember that old song?
Oh, yeah.
All the wreck on the highway. Yeah. So songwriting is really just opening up, I think. And, there are people that may have so many great ideas, they just sit down and write a song from an idea. And I guess I've done that before, but to me, you've got to open up the words that come to you and let them be infected by the tone of the day or the tone of some kind of direction, vector, or something that an arrow pointing some direction through the song, a thread through it. You gotta have a kind of a way of creating a benchmark or an evaluation system that you don't put too much ego into. You know, give it let it discover its own parameters. Kind of makes sense. I did it. There was another song I did. Which one was it? It was one that'll be on my new album. It's called Pine Cone. I figured, hey, somebody from Lubbock, Flatlands, Great South Plains should write a song about a pine tree or a pine cone. And, I tell everybody, well, I was 3 years old before I saw Lubbock's first pine cone. They said it was from a pine tree, and so then we had to find where that pine tree was. And it turned out it was about 4 blocks away. And it was another 2 or 3 years before I saw another pine tree. So, anyway, so here I go and write this song, and it was pine cone dropping from a lonesome pine. If it hits me on my head, I'll be in tears. I mean, and it's like, what the hell is that? And each line just kind of, like, those 2 lines kind of, what does... No. It goes pine cone dropping from a lonesome pine. Oh, let's see. Now I'm forgetting it. Let's see. Where does all the money go? Is that it? Yeah, where does all the money go? What does that have to do with pine cone dropping from a lonesome pine? Well, maybe nothing, but maybe we'll find out. And then the next line was, let's see, pine cone dropping from a lonesome pine. If it hits me, no. So, where does all the money go? Question mark hides behind the dollar sign. Oh, it's starting to tie something together there. And the next line was, I never knew before, but now I know. And then it goes back to pine cone dropping from a lonesome pine. If it hits me on my head, I'll be in tears. And if I see some stars, I'll take it for a sign. It's the only sign of light I've seen in years. So these you can jump around. Poetry wants to jump around a lot. And if you let it, whoever hears it will fill in the gaps. I guarantee you. So that's my advice to young songwriters listening tonight or today. What time do you air these things? Daytime or night?
Mornings is when they come out first.
Morning. Ah, cool. Oh, get them before they've had time to think too much. Yeah, excellent. But anyway, that's kind of where I go, every day, more or less. It's like, what's it all about, and how would I know anyway?
That was very fascinating to me, and I love it when people will analyze things like that, analyze words, and I don't know why I've always had this thing. I love it when somebody is on the show and they just sing one of their lines on the phone. I've always liked that.
Oh, yeah.
So thank you.
That's cool, yeah. My pleasure. I was just glad I could remember it.
So you mentioned this record on the horizon.
Yeah, it'll be titled 7 Cities of Gold. And I recorded it 7 years ago. Okay, so ridiculously long time in between, but I'm it's kind of like that song I wrote I was telling you about that. The day will tell me how to do it, So yeah, at some point it's everything's just about ready to release it, and I'm anticipating it will be very soon. But I've been saying that for 7 years too. So, and it's going to be a wonderful album. It's most of the Flatlander, in fact, all the Flatlander band showed up on it, and Cindy Cash Dollar and Bucka Allen, and let's see, this lady that plays accordion from up around Fort Worth, Jenny Mack, that's with the Ginny Mac. You ought to check her out. She's got incredible ability on the accordion. And her boyfriend at the time, Austin Smith, played fiddle, and they would just intertwine their leads, and it was just some magic happened with that. But so it was. We had a great time recording that, and then I forgot what happened. That I just kind of shelved it for a little while, but turned into a long while. But hey, it's all right.
And so that should be out in 2021?
Absolutely.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Well, there's a song, people can watch this. It's on your website, butchhancock.net, and it's the first thing you see. It's this song, Boxcars. And I recommend that they watch this. I've always been fascinated with how, for whatever reason, trains have just had such a recurring theme in American music. And they've fascinated me.
Well, they've literally, you're right. Well, I think because the hobos got a hold of them, and there was something about they hopped on, they probably sang some songs, hopping down a freight with maybe a harmonica, maybe a guitar, or maybe nothing, just tapping it, but listening to that rhythm, like that. Just there's a rhythm to the rails. Every time it crosses a joint where the rails meet, there's that little click clack, clickety clack of the old railroad track, And there's built-in music, and there's built-in music to cars too, and to motorcycles and bicycles and tricycles, and, so we've got these built-in rhythms and the chugging of the old steam trains. There's lots of rhythms that really deeply affected a lot of people, and with trains there's the image of the big powerful locomotive and faraway places, So that's one of the obvious. It's not so much a reason; it just happened to be there. And trains got invented in about the same time that guitars and pianos started to proliferate in this country. And then about the time the trains, this old steam engines began to disappear, everybody and their dog got a guitar. And so there was some amazing, dance music ensued from all of that. All the old juke joints and cowboy honky tonks. There's always been a connection between music and dance. It shows no sign of letting up, I don't think.
I was mentioning at the beginning of the interview about the different singers, aside from your Flatlander brothers that have recorded your songs, also Jerry Jeff Walker, Emmylou Harris. What is that like for you when somebody records one of your songs?
Oh, it's great. I love, even if somebody butchers it, which is every once in a while something like that happens, but maybe just somebody records it, not as an album. But people that are, if they're going to make an album, they usually have got enough together to do a pretty good job. And most of the time, people do great jobs. So, if they love a song, they're going to want to do it justice. I mean, I know I'm that way. I'd like to. There's songs I don't sing that I love, but I just don't know how to play them.
Well, this might be a put you on the spot kind of question, but who do you think has done the best job at covering a Butch Hancock song?
Eek! Boy, I don't know. It's heck. Well, I tell you who's done the most jobs that I love is Joe and Jimmie. They've done a lot of them, and they're just a couple of impeccable artists, But and Jerry Jeff, I got to tell you about Jerry Jeff. I mean, me and Bill Hearn played a tribute to Jerry Jeff right after he had died, and we had a gig over at Kerrville, an actual live gig, first live gig I've had since February, and we did a Jerry Jeff song, told a few tales about it. But Jerry Jeff had to record a couple of my songs, and one of them was that Standing at the Big Hotel. And it turns out Bob Livingston got him to do that. Everywhere they'd go, when he was, Bob played bass in his band, Los Gonzo band, and everywhere they'd go, Bob would be singing it, Gary P. would be singing it, and finally Jerry just said, "Oh, all right, stop singing now, I'll record it." Just kind of wore him down. But he did a great job on that song, I think.
Oh, yeah.
So, and Lou, my gosh, holy mackerel, what a planet. She was and Flacco.
Oh, yeah.
Flacco, he didn't sing it, but he had Emmylou sing the West Texas Waltz. I thought, man, I didn't expect that from Flacco, but we got to be pretty good friends over in Switzerland one time. I've been on a solo. Well, actually, I had a couple of guys playing with me. Slim played the accordion, and Jesse Guitar Taylor was playing guitar. We did a tour of Italy, and right as we were leaving Italy, the night before we left, we did a little gig with in Sesto Calende up near Lago Maggiore, which borders on the Swiss border. And Ramblin' Jack Elliott did the gig. We did a double bill, And then that night, I happened to be rooming with Ramblin' Jack, and of course he wouldn't stop telling me tales and stories, and I was getting sleepy. I had to get up early the next morning and catch a train to Switzerland, to Zurich. And of course, Ramblin' Jack got to reading me from Cormac McCarthy book, All the Pretty Horses or something, and I was trying to go to sleep, but I made the mistake of kind of every once in a while he would finish a paragraph and start a breath, and I would go, or something like that, and I shouldn't have done that, man. It's like that just encouraged him, and he kept going. And it was like 5:30, and I finally drifted off to sleep, and then my alarm went off, and I had to go catch a train. Me and Jesse and Slim caught the train. Of course, you can't go to sleep on a train going through the Alps. You got to gawk out the window through from Texas, man, for sure. And anyway, we got up there to Zurich, and got our luggage off the train and guitars off the train, and headed over to the hotel. We just decided to walk. It was about 5 blocks. We thought it was about 2 blocks, but anyway, so about halfway over to the hotel, we walked by this little bar, and I heard somebody say, "Hey, Butch Hancock, hey, blah, 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 blah." He came running out, and it was Doug Somm. He said, because we were opening the show for him the next night, or that night, over at this big auditorium, and he came in there and just started yakking at me about baseball and rock and roll, his two favorite subjects, man. And he's as much as a talker as Ramblin' Jack. So it was like getting out of the frying pan into the boiling pot, man. And we had a great time and wound up having a great show with him. And I'm bringing all this up because it covers so many bases here. Flacco was playing with him, of course, and Jesse Guitar Taylor. We'd finished our set, and I was kind of hanging in backstage, or I was up in the green room, which was upstairs, right off the stage left, and I came down the steps, and I was hanging around kind of side stage, just listening a little while, and I saw Jesse up on the stairs, kind of a little this landing up there, and he was kind of leaning on the banister, and he just was staring down at the stage, and he looked kind of sick or something. I thought, man, what the hell? So I ran up there and said, "Jesse, you okay? You okay?" And he said, No, I'm not, Butch. I said, what's the matter? What's the matter? And he says, "Well, do you see Flacco?" I said, "Yeah, there he's down, right down the stage." Well, Butch, I'm quite a drinker. I fancy myself as a real good beer drinker, but I've been watching Flacco here, and he has, watch him. What's he doing? And I looked back down there, and Flacco was back at the back corner of the stage. He had two stagehands back there with him, and one stagehand was popping beer tops and handing them to Flacco, and the other one was lighting cigarettes and handing them to him. And I was sat there, and Jesse would say, Butch, I have met my master. I think he can outdrink me, man. I've watched him drink. I just counted 12 beers, and we sat there and counted another 12. He drank a full case of beer while he was playing the gig, and he would turn around after he'd finished a beer and run out there and tickle the ivories a little bit on his accordion, and then come back and grab a cigarette. And it was unbelievable. And Jesse and I were just paralyzed with, I don't know. With Jesse, I think it was kind of admiration, but with me, I just couldn't see. It was back when I might drink a beer, but if I drank two, I was in trouble, man. So here he could just, and then on top of that night, we went over to the hotel we were staying at, and down in the basement of the hotel, they had a little get together with guitars and Flacco was down there flirting with the girls and drinking hard liquor. And I could not fathom it, man. It was beyond my imagination. Well, next morning I woke up, went down to the lobby, and there was Flacco interviewing. He was having something in his coffee. I don't know what to put in coffee, but and interviewing. Somebody was interviewing him from the local paper. Well, Flacco, we became good friends on that right about that time, and so he, I guess, had it in his heart to record a song of mine or two. So, man, it's you never know. You never know where a song is going to go and how it's going to get there. That album I did, what is it called? You Could Have Walked Around the World. Somebody over in, I'd come back from Tibet. I'd gone over to Nepal and Tibet. No, I didn't go to Tibet. I went to Nepal. And but this person came through Austin about 2 years after I'd been over there, and he had been in Tibet trekking all over the mountains over there, and he had been singing this song, "You Could Have Walked Around the World." He'd been singing that song, and to all the little villages, and somebody was translating it for me. He said, "Yeah, everybody over there loves that song." And I went, "Wow, what in the world? How did that song get on the other side of the planet and off into some little villages out in the Himalaya mountains?" God, and you just don't know, man. You don't know where a song's going to wind up. You don't know where it comes from. So how in the world can you know where it's going to go?
Interesting. Great stories.
It's just, I say this probably every day, it's up one side and down the other.
What would you say is the best thing about being Butch Hancock?
Woo! Oh, I don't know. Shoot, it's everything. Everything, and not about me. It's just, I guess, that I happen to be on the planet, and I get to meet so many incredible folks and people, and see the great beauty of the universe, and all the blessings we've all been showered with, and the opportunity to just to spread some happiness. That's what humans are looking for all the time, some kind of happiness.
Mm-hmm.
So, onward through the fog.
Well, on this show, I always like to, at the end, give the guest the stage. It's not limited to music, but I know that there are people who have been touched by your music from all over the world. What would you say to anybody who's tuned in?
Wow. Well, I would say that the best job you can ever find on this planet is to help somebody else. And in doing so, there's a corollary to it. Do no harm. So, love everything and everybody without exception. And I know that gets hard sometimes, but the difficulties are our greatest teachers. So, go for it. That's about as succinct as I'm going to get this week, I think.
I like that. I like that a lot. Well, everybody out there, they can visit butchhancock.net. Our guest has been Butch Hancock. I want to thank you so much, sir, for giving us this very entertaining and visually thought-provoking, I don't even know what I would call it, but I saw a lot of miniature movies in my head when you were talking by what you were. It was very evocative, I guess is the word.
Well, those are just the G-rated ones.
We'll get into those next time.
Okay.
Well, Butch, sir, thank you so much.
Paul, thank you. I enjoyed talking to you, man. Call me up anytime.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bless you.
All right. Have a great week.
You bet. You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Ba doodly beep bop dee da dee bumpity boo rapati kanaza jip bop kila kanatsa gil bond gul tingy jiga manga but this ya hunga a yega sega back in the e daga go I got the inga rock tinga langa bo a kick oh goodbye.